how good, I mean, obviously I see the stats on Jalen Carter. I mean, how good is Jalen Carter? How much does Georgia miss Nolan Smith? And are we focusing too much on Carter and not looking at other specifics on the defense? I mean, we know that the Bulldogs hold teams to 77 yards rushing a game, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But kind of a multi-level question on the defense.
Well, I'll start with Nolan Smith, which is out of the year. Tore his pec, had to have surgery on that. All season long, he's been that vocal guy, that guy who would not be afraid to somebody's face if they were not doing what they were supposed to do. We saw him in the championship game last year when Alabama was driving. He's the one that got on one of the other linebackers for not being in position to make a play. But he's a guy that's, again, it's they miss him from the physical standpoint. But he's still on the sideline, cheering his teammates on, that kind of thing. But they've had guys who stepped up. Chaz Chambliss, Robert Bill Jr. have kind of taken over that jack position, and they haven't really missed much right now. But you talked about Jalen Carter. To me, he has been the defensive key. You talked to the guys on the defense last year, to Jordan Davis, Trayvon Walker. They will tell you that Jalen Carter was the best defensive lineman they had on the team last year. He's just you hear that term country strong, and I think that's a very good way to describe Jalen. It's kind of funny in a way that the one person could make that much difference for a defensive front, but in Jalen's case, he has. And for those who don't know, he's missed most of the year with an ankle injury. Hurt it, I think, like the third play against Oregon, first game of the year. Came back against Missouri and got low blocked and missed some more games. But he's finally 100%. And Jalen Carter 100% is a tough deal to deal with. And I'm sure that's something Ohio State offensive coaches are really kind of focused on, trying to figure out a way to control him. I don't know. So far, that's been difficult for anybody to do. But the defense as a whole, other than that, there's a bunch of really just a bunch of guys who bought into what Kirby Smart is preaching, what the defensive coaches preach. Is Jamon Dumas Johnson, a middle linebacker, is starting to emerge right now. Of course, in the secondary, you've got Keely Ringo, who some project will be a first-round pick. But just a bunch of guys who believe what Coach Smart is preaching, and so far they've exceeded a lot of expectations.
I'll jump in with another one here real quick too. Sure. I mean, if you talk to a lot of just college football fans around the world, despite it being a 7-point game or 7-point line, everybody is expecting, this is just a mere formality. This is just going to be a sacrifice en route for Georgia going to LA to go face the probably Michigan beating TCU. I mean, what's the prevailing thought around Bulldog Nation? I mean, obviously we know that when you guys get to go around the facility, and I know Kirby keeps a pretty tight ship there, and you guys don't get a ton of access, and they're going to all say the right things. But what's the prevailing thoughts around Athens and neighboring areas about what this game is? Because up until the Michigan game, Ohio State was supposed to be the only team that could really challenge Georgia, and then Ohio State obviously lays a gigantic egg against Michigan, and that's one game. But what's the thought down there?
I think it's two different things. What fans think and what the team thinks, I think, are two entirely different animals. I mean, Georgia fans, of course, they're confident. I don't think there's many that believe that Georgia's going to just throw their hats on the field at Mercedes-Benz and cruise to a victory. I don't think that's going to happen. But behind the scenes, I think there's a little bit of concern going back to how efficient, great Ohio State has always been, throwing the football. Those receivers they have right now, I think, are a major concern after what, we saw in the SEC championship game. Granted, Georgia has had success against some pretty good, passing team. Tennessee, they were able to really limit what Hendon Hooker was able to do. And that's why I guess a lot of people were pretty stunned at what happened against LSU. But again, that did happen, and I think there's a reason that people are still concerned. But overconfidence for Georgia, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I mean, Kirby Smart practices are famous for being supposedly, you hear players say this all the time, tougher than the games themselves. They do that for one of the specific purposes, just to make sure they understand that nothing is ever a gimme. You've got to be ready and be ready to give your 100%, every time you step on the field. So, different, like I said, just different opinions. Like fans, I think, are confident. The team, I think, is a little more, not subdued is the right word, but understand the gravity of the situation a little bit better. I think what a lot of fans do right now.
Anthony, you alluded to the passing success by JT Daniels during the SEC championship game. How much of that do you consider meaningful or legit?
I think it was legit. I hate to taking away anything from LSU. I probably sound like Coach Mark here a little bit when I say that. But there were some issues of communication between Kelly Ringo and Malachi Stark, the true freshman safety. I know on 3 of those explosives that the LSU had in the passing game, you see both those guys kind of look around at each other after the play was made. I thought you were going to be here. I thought you were going to be there. And that was probably, I think 3 of those scores that LSU had were, I think, results of guys just not being in the right position. And, that's something that I would think with all the time between games, they could probably coach them up to do a better job. But, that's I think that's the biggest thing they're working on right now. To get back to Keeley for a little bit here, I know Coach Martin has been wants him to lose maybe a little bit of weight. I think he got a little heavy over the past few weeks. He's trying to drop a few pounds, get that back down to around 200, 195, because he was pushing that 210 range here not too long ago, and they want him to be a little quicker than what he's shown.
That's, of course, Jaden Daniels, who made those throws for LSU, not JT Daniels. Yes, before I get into comment, yes, they made the 2, and I've seen them both play dozens of times. Yes.